The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference. I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. I am so pleased today to have my guest on this show, and she's an amazing person, an absolutely incredible playwright. She's an actor. But before she actually began doing all of that, she decided to work for a national law firm and continues to work there. Now, I'm going to ask you this question, and by the way, I didn't introduce her, and her name is Marianne Regan. Now, Marianne, it's not everybody who's done lots of acting and lots of playwriting and all of the things that you've done. Why did you decide to work for a law firm?
Oh, well, I was a starving actor living in Manhattan for 8 years, and I accomplished everything I went to New York to do. I got all of my union cards, and then I just came one day and said, I'm 28 years old. Is that all there is? So I tacked. I went from Manhattan to San Diego, California.
Not a bad place to be, by the way. Now,
not a bad place to start,
right?
Right?
That's right. Now, let me tell our audience a little bit about the Playhouse, the Delray Playhouse in Delray Beach, Florida, where you and I reside. It is a gem. It's a hidden gem, and it's called the Delray Playhouse, and it is in Florida, and it's fast becoming a new mecca for people wanting to live the beach lifestyle in an affordable environment. While the Playhouse has physically been there since 1957, few of the newer residents know anything about it. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted Marianne to tell you about it, because she's been involved in so many different plays and has absolutely a passion for what she does. Marianne, a lot of people don't know about you, and so instead of my telling them about you, how about you telling them about you? How's that for about you? Okay, tell them about you, if you will.
Well, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, oldest of 5 girls, so that was a household I needed to get out of. After college, I decided I was going to Manhattan. I was in Manhattan for 8 years. As I mentioned, I accomplished my goals and then said, you know what, every cent I'm making, I'm churning back into my career, which is what an actor does. Any actor will tell you that. And I said, I need a little bit of a break. So I had a friend who was in the Navy and was stationed in San Diego, California. And she said, come on out. So I went out there, started temping. I had office skills because my mother was wise enough to make me take typing and stenography in high school. Got hired by a law firm, and that was such an amazing and wonderful experience. I rocketed right to the top, and I'm still there, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to them. They've enabled me to do so many other things just because I had steady employment. Here we are in Delray Beach.
Yeah, here you are, and here you are indeed. And I'm so pleased to have you. Now, here's the thing. You are a playwright. I want you to tell the audience a little bit about how you got started doing that. And is it hard? I would imagine it's very difficult. Where do you begin?
Well, you begin by writing, and I'm sure everyone has a story inside them. And sometimes you just have to force yourself to sit down and let it come out. Collaboration is wonderful. I had a terrific writing partner, and he and I collaborated. He had written this whole body of music, and I said, well, there's a play there. So he and I wrote the book together, and we had our premiere at Coronado, California, I think in 2011. So that was kind of fun to make that dream come true, right? And now that I've had that as a basis for what it takes to write a play and produce it, cast it, direct it, produce it, That's what we're trying to do at the Delray Beach Playhouse. We're trying to encourage people to get those stories out of them. And we're going to give you a venue, and we're going to give you a stage and actors to tell your story.
Right. Now, we call this a little gem, and there's a reason for it because, as I said before, few people know about it. There is an audience, and it's a big audience, but they're getting older. And when you talk about the plays that you write, the stories that you tell, how do you give an incentive for people who are younger to try to come to the Playhouse? Because it's a shame if it dies out. It's been around for so long. So I'm curious, and I'm sure my audience wants to know a little bit more about what the incentive is to get a younger audience in.
Well, we had this wonderful brand new executive director who joined the Playhouse in 2016 or 17. And he is just a breath of fresh air. He has been using all of our facility, not just the main stage, but the entire facility, and is booking acts that already play the circuit. And when you see our brochure, you might see the gal who's doing the Carole King tribute, and she's playing the Delray Beach Playhouse, but she's also playing Kings Point, and she's also playing down in Fort Lauderdale. So those actors who have these self-contained acts or singers or, performers, they play the circuit. And Kevin is plugged into that circuit, and he can also get them for our Playhouse, our little Playhouse, which isn't as big as some of these other venues. But we have created a cabaret room. This is how we're attracting the younger crowd. This is now a fun place to go on a Friday or a Saturday night.
Sounds like it. Now, I'd like the audience to know a little bit about the history of the Playhouse, because when I read about it and I found out that it was actually a writer's colony, it was very intriguing. So give our audience a little bit of a knowledge about the history of the Delray Playhouse.
It is interesting. It was fascinating how the whole city of Delray Beach came to be. It was started as an agricultural colony. Obviously, Murakami is where they had the pineapple farms. And for a while there, it was doing a booming business. They finally got the railroad to come into town and were shipping all these pineapples all over the country. But because it was so charming and not expensive and kind of a little off the main drag and off the map, it attracted actors, and it attracted artists, and it attracted creative people, and that's how that colony started to build upon itself. The originators of the Playhouse used St. Paul's Episcopal Church, which is still there, by the way, in downtown Delray, to put on little performances. It wasn't until 1957 that the city gave this little company land, city-owned land, to build the theater. The city still owns that land in Lake Ida Park, and we pay a very, very nominal lease to be there. And it's a wonderful partnership because we're using this little part of Lake Ida Park that truly, if you don't know where the Playhouse is, you have to get out your Waze and your GPS because you will not find it.
That's true. I mean, I've had that experience, to be honest with you, and I'm sure other people do. And when I tell them, I say, there's this little gem called the Delray Playhouse, they say to me, the gem? Where is that? So I think it is very important to kind of give people an opportunity to know that it exists. Now, that leads me to asking you a little bit of something that I'm sure our audience wants to know. I love stories, and you tell great stories. So tell our audience a little story about your experience writing and your experience actually being on stage. What was it like?
Oh, well, any actor will tell you that it's the smell of the grease paint, the roar of the crowd. It doesn't matter what theater you're in. Suddenly it becomes Carnegie Hall every time you walk out on that stage. I think the most exciting thing for people like me who maybe are at the end of their life, who had at one point theater was the be-all and end-all, then they got married, then they had kids, then they had jobs and maybe other careers. But now we're coming full circle, and this is the part of the Playhouse that I want to introduce people to. Here you can come home again. Here we want you to come. You have all this talent that you used when you were younger and then just had to put it aside, but we know that it's still in you. And that's what we want you to realize and come to the Delray Beach Playhouse and make it your new home. Because everybody who comes there is so enamored. I tell you, Susan, it's in this little, tucked away in this little tiny older residential neighborhood of Delray Beach where there are no sidewalks and it's all, you have to wind these little tiny winding streets, which don't always go through. So if you make a left when you shouldn't, you're coming to a dead end and you have to turn around and come out again. And you go, oh, there can't possibly be a theater back here. And you wind and turn, and finally, there's the only turn you can make. It opens out onto this vista where Lake Ida, which is a huge lake, and this park, and this quaint little theater, and you think, Dorothy, I'm in Oz.
Now, there must have been a specific play that you loved and you wanted to act in.
Yeah. The play that I've always wanted to be in, and now I'm too old to be in it, is by A.R. Gurney, and it's called Sylvia. And Sarah Jessica Parker did the initial role off-Broadway. So right away you have a picture of who the Sylvia, the dog. Sylvia is a dog.
Right.
And and I've always, because I love dogs, and I've spent a lot of my life with dogs, and I'm very good at reading them, and I thought, oh, this part is perfect for me. But I'm going to have to put that aside for the younger ones, but I can be something else. This is the wonderful thing about theater. You can be all these different people and all these different animals and all these different things that, your imagination will let you become.
You have a big imagination, I imagine, because being a theater person, a playwright, an actor, and somebody who just absolutely adores what you do. Where did you come up? And let's talk about that. Where did you come up with some of the ideas that you have? Because that's not an easy thing. I'm kind of reiterating what I asked you before, but I really want to understand the process. How does it all work?
Well, when I joined the Board of Governors at the Delray Beach Playhouse, I didn't have this idea in mind. But my partner here in my theater partner here in Delray Beach, Dan Belante, he and I met when we were both on the board for the Public Arts Advisory Board of Delray Beach. And then when he got moved over to the Playhouse, he brought me with him. And I said, Dan, has there ever been a playwriting, anything about playwriting, new plays here at the Playhouse? He goes, I don't think so. So we pitched it to the board and the executive director, and we said we would like to start a new playwriting festival for local writers. And then we will cast it with local actors. And then we will have staged readings to showcase these new writers and all of these new actors. And God bless him, Kevin Barrett, like I mentioned, our executive director, said, go for it. And we just ran with the wind. And sometimes you have an inkling of an idea and you don't know what the end game is going to be. Right. And that's the difference between me and Dan. I know the end game. I know what the end game looks like, and Dan fills in all the blanks in between.
Okay, so if you know what the end game is, I'd like you to tell our audience what you think is the end game for most of the things that you do as part of the board. I would imagine all of the plays that were given to you, it must have been a tremendous amount of plays. So how did you get through it? I mean,
it was. We had a reading committee. Last year, 2019, was the first year we put out the artist call on March 1st. And our deadline was May 31st, and we received about 29 submissions, but only 27 of them were valid. One was a screenplay, like a movie screenplay, and we couldn't use that. And the other one was just an idea. Somebody wrote in and said, I think this would make a good play, and he just gave us the idea. I'm like, well, no, that's not the point. We need you to write the play. Then we had a committee, and we chose 8. And we performed 4 on Saturday evening and 4 on Sunday afternoon. And I think the funnest part of all of that, well, there were so many fun parts about it, but the day that we had the auditions, now we had 8 plays. There were something like 34 characters that we needed to cast. I had 29 actors show up, all people with all various degrees of talent. And the beauty of our project is that it's a staged reading. You don't have to be standing. Everybody's sitting down. We're doing a table read. And there's acting, and I told the actors, dress as your character, and we had minimal props. The important thing for me and my end goal was to showcase the writers, because Southern Florida is so rich in talent. If you just imagine all of these people who may live here only half the year come from the tri-state area where there is so much theater. And again, they may have been actors and writers and directors and producers and playwrights in their youth and then had to set that all aside. Well, now we're giving them the opportunity to pick up those skills and come to the Playhouse and be part of our family. And which leads that's so wonderful. Which leads me to asking you, are they volunteers or do they get paid? No. The Playhouse is a 501(c)(3), so it depends a lot on volunteers. Certainly our ushers. We have over 100 ushers because we have so many plays going on all the time, and all volunteer basis. The main stage plays are cast with volunteers, and you know, we depend on them. You know, they're very responsible volunteers and actors. Of course, the staff, we have 1 full-time box office staff and I think 2 or 3 part-time box office staff. Of course, our technical director is on staff, but he's got 2 assistants. The executive director and our artistic director, of course, Randolph Del Lago. He's been there since 1972. He has been our artistic director all those years and is single-handedly responsible for putting Delray Beach Playhouse on the map. If it weren't for him alone, we could not get all of these bus groups to come in. They love him. They absolutely love him. And he does something called musical memories, which I'd like our audience to know a little bit more about. Yes. So at the Playhouse, we usually have 2 different subscription series running concurrently. We have the main stage plays, which is 5 different offerings, usually a comedy, a musical, a farce, a drama, usually like a Neil Simon that plays very well, and then so they run Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we have something called Musical Memories, which is something that Randolph created himself, and he takes a composer. The last one I went to was called The Best of All Possible Worlds, Leonard Bernstein on Broadway, and for 2 hours with an intermission, of course. He tells you all about Leonard Bernstein, from when he was a little boy to where he went to school to how we met all of the famous people he collaborated with, to all of the wonderful shows that he wrote, and we hire professional vocalists to sing songs from each of the shows that we're featuring according to whichever composer it is. We have one on Rodgers and Hart and Lerner and Lowe, as Camelot. It's just I love it. It's history. It's just pure, beautiful history. Randolph has slides and movies and clips and, of course, then the wonderful singers who just come out and they just melt your heart. It's just amazing. Those have been running concurrently for decades. Now, that's the first layer. Now we're putting the comedy shows and the cabaret acts and the playwriting competition and all sorts of different layers on top of that. They're usually, when there's no pandemics, that Playhouse is never dark. We're always got something going on every day of the week.
That leads me, I know I want this to be an evergreen because it's the kind of show that people want to listen to, they want to learn, they want to know where to go, they're always looking for culture. And in our little town here in Delray Beach, Florida, they have found it, and you've identified how great it is. But this pandemic has been causing such a crisis, and how is it affecting the theater?
Oh, it's, as with any business, we've had to suspend everything. The week that the governor shut down the state of Florida, we had a show ready to go up. It had rehearsed. We were going into final dress, and boom, everything stopped. In addition to that, the last show for this year was going to be Steel Magnolias, which has got 9 women in it. And all of the female actors were like, oh, I can't wait to audition for that. That's had to stop too. But the good thing is that Kevin Barrett, again, our executive director, has decided to push those plays into next season. So instead of 5 shows, now we're going to do 6. Same with Musical Memories. Instead of 5 shows, now we're going to do 6. So Steel Magnolias will be in the next season. Stage Struck, which is the one that had already rehearsed and was ready to open, that will be in there. Our musical is going to be A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Our Neil Simon's going to be Lost in Yonkers. We have a brand new mystery called Villainous Company. It was performed at the Soul Theater last year in 2018. And then Randolph is very excited to do A Doll's House Part 2, which was just on Broadway.
Right.
So we have a wonderful lineup. And, of course, everyone whose show tickets got mixed up for this year will be, comped for that for next season. So it'll be a smooth transition. And my playwriting festival was supposed to, right now we're still accepting submissions, but I don't know where we are in that process.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Hopefully that's still going to happen. Our intention is to, it closes May 31st. Then we will select the plays. We will audition and rehearse during the summer. And right now, but now we have to look at the calendar again. Right now, a month ago, December was kind of open, so I picked a weekend in December for our purposes. But now with everything else that's going on, that might get bumped. But I encourage your listeners, if they're at all interested in writing or even performing, go onto the website, the Delray Beach Playhouse website. Go on there, get the information, bookmark it so that you can come back to it once we have our current information going. I want to encourage everyone to come be a part of our family because that's what it feels like. Susan, I don't know, the best thing I could tell you is that when I was starting to direct all these plays, I would come home at the end of the day, and my mom would say, well, how was your day? And I was like, Mom, it was magical, because you know why? I used to speak this language. And now I'm speaking it again. For 40 years in the middle there, I didn't say stage right, stage left, upstage, downstage, in the wings, you know?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's like a language that you never use, and when you don't use it, you miss it. It's like going to that foreign country that you never thought you'd see again, and now you're there.
You're there. Marianne, just so that we finish up, I'd like the audience to know how they get onto the website. Do you know the website? Can you tell them that?
It is all one word, DelrayBeachPlayhouse.com.
There you go. And if people want to learn a little bit more, or they want to reach you to tell them a little bit about how they get started with their plays, what do they do to get to you?
Well, the application is on the website. It says, attention local playwrights, calling for submissions for the second annual Playhouse Playwrights Project, Festival of New Plays. And it gives you the guidelines, and these are guidelines. We're hoping to keep it 20-minute one-act plays. But last year we had a 10-minute one-act, and we had a 32-minute one-act, you know. Okay. So they're just guidelines. We certainly don't want a 3-act play for now.
Right.
My ultimate goal is to find that playwright and that play that will translate to the main stage. What better way to have a local playhouse than to have a local playwright? Maybe a playwright in residence.
Hey, that's a great idea. I might join that, because I'll tell you something. After I listen to you and your passion and your enthusiasm for this wonderful little community playhouse, you can't help but say, how do I get involved? So I want to thank my very special guest, Marianne Regan, who is the most interesting and lovely person that I've had on my show in a long time. So thank you so much, Marianne Regan, for being on the Susan Brender Show.
Oh, my pleasure, and it was my honor to be a part of your community, Susan. You're serving a lot of people very well. And
thank you.
I just know our ranks are going to swell now. We're going to get all this new talent.
Okay, bye.